They are our children. I don't think that priority is given to the fact that they die by gun violence.
Welcome to Faith Chicago. We're concluding our ministry tour of Chicago with Doc, Dr. John Feuder. In a city like Chicago, what should our mission be?
Well, I think the mission ultimately of a church, a parachurch ministry, is for the gospel to be both seen and heard. And as a Christian, it hurts your heart to understand that our city is known for being the city of Al Capone, but in many ways it's the city of D.L. Moody, it's the city of Billy Sunday, it's the city of Billy Graham back in the day. So it just depends on perspective.
So where are we headed next?
Hey, we're just pulling now into the Chinatown community, which is well over 100 years old, and a ministry by the Chinese Christian Union Church, which also is over 100 years old in this community, called the Pui Tak Center. And the director, David Wu, and his family have been intricately involved in this ministry for a long, long time. And he'll tell us about the way that the church is meeting social needs in the community.
When we speak of the Asian community, how many Asian cultures are we talking about?
There's quite a few Asian cultures in Chicago. Right now we're in Chinatown, which is just south of downtown. But the Koreans, the Japanese, the Vietnamese, Cambodians, the Asian Indians have all settled up on the north side of the city. So every community is different. We're in Chinatown, and Chinese started coming to Chicago as early as the 1880s. So we have a really long history, but Chinatown really consists of a lot of new immigrants.
What brings them to this area?
You know, a lot of times people will come to their ethnic enclave because they lack English and they just feel more comfortable being around people from a similar background. But what brings them to the United States is a hope for a better life, either for themselves, but definitely for their children.
I was going to ask you too, David, the Pui Tak Center I know is a ministry of the Chinese Christian Union Church. Could you talk a little bit about that partnership? Because isn't the Pui Tak somewhat of the social service arm?
Yeah, so we're the community service arm of the church. The church has taught English, worked with kids, tried to meet a human need that someone had to build a friendship. Because today, even the Chinese that are coming probably didn't know Christians, probably never attended the church, never saw a Bible. And so you can't just give them a Bible or invite them to a service. You have to demonstrate God's love.
So by providing this service, people actually learn more about what you do and about the church, and then they're more accepting.
Yes.
About how many people are served in this Chinatown location?
The south side Chinatown has about 27,000 people, so it's actually growing every decade, and so people are still arriving from China. Our community center serves about 3,000 people a year. On a given Sunday, the Chinese Christian Union Church probably has 1,000, so there's still a lot of work to do.
Maybe mention the school too. Is it the Pui Tak Christian School that you guys have begun as well to reach children, right?
Probably about 60 years ago, they started a preschool, and most kids were going to kindergarten without knowing a word of English. And so the church saw that need and responded to it by starting a preschool and a daycare. And over the years, it's expanded, and the school recently launched to become a kind of an independent Christian school, still affiliated with the church, but trying to meet the educational needs of children here and to make an impact on families through education.
You've talked about language. What are some of the other barriers or other things that you deal with in this community to reach people?
You know, I mean, immigrants give up a lot. I was just talking to someone who came from Guangzhou, the southern part of China, and as before they immigrated, they had their own business, but wanted to come to provide for their family or to have a better opportunities for their kids. And when they came, they actually had to start at the very bottom. They didn't know English. Whatever job skill they had in running a business wasn't very useful, and so they had to work in a restaurant. So there's a lot of different needs that you could try to meet to serve your community.
Can I ask you too, David? the church has services in different languages too, doesn't it? Just so our viewers understand that.
Yeah, so
to
just
respond
like
to
a lot of immigrant churches,
Yeah.
it started with the language that people spoke as they immigrated. And so for Chinatown, it was actually Cantonese, which is one of the dialects of Chinese. The immigrant churches have to worship in their native language, but quickly they have to figure out how to reach the next generation, the kids that are growing up. If they make them speak Chinese here
Right.
or Korean, some of them will turn away from the church, and so a lot of immigrant churches have to develop English language ministries
For the young people.
for the young people. And then, so our church has Cantonese, English, and then Mandarin as well, which is the official dialect of Chinese spoken in China.
Well, thanks for letting us be here on your
Thank you,
rooftop
David.
and be here in Chinatown.
Thanks, bro.
Thanks. So, Doc, we're standing and gazing at this beautiful Chicago skyline.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's the Willis Tower.
Yeah,
and
formerly the Sears
The
Tower.
Sears Tower,
Yeah.
which is what
Yeah.
I wanted to call it. It's the
Yeah,
Willis Tower.
I
And
know.
some beautiful locations. And
Yeah.
it just reminds me of all the ministry that's going on
Yeah.
throughout this city.
It's true. And so much of what our viewers are seeing are prime examples of choice men and women of God
Yes.
that have devoted years of their life, decades of their life to pouring into various neighborhoods on the west and south and north side of our city. And I think we would like our viewers to understand the opportunity that is there for them to be more aware, to go to the website, to check it out, for those that have proximity, to maybe come show up and volunteer, but even to give financially, because
so many of them, all of them,
Yeah.
have a financial
They
need.
do.
And if the Lord
do.
has placed on your
Yeah.
heart a desire to help any one of these ministries, as you said, either
Yeah.
by volunteer or
Yeah.
with a gift, pray about how
Yeah.
you can get involved in help of all these locations. And you too, Doc.
Yeah,
Your
yeah,
organization.
Heart for the City is as well. And I can speak that the fun for me of filming these clips are our friends, comrades,
Yeah.
colleagues of more than 2 decades of co-laboring together in Chicago. The integrity of these men and women, their commitment to the neighborhood, and yet many do it at great sacrifice, at great cost. And so anything that God would prompt you to do would be a huge, huge gift to these
Yes.
men and women.
Welcome back. Follow us now through the south side of Chicago, Bronzeville, Englewood, and Roseland. Doc, tell us about the history of the Bronzeville community that would be, of interest to our viewers.
This part of Chicago has been too often villainized for aspects of society where people were viewed as less than, not having worth, value, dignity, gangs, drugs, violence. But the cultural components of this community with national implications with President and Michelle Obama, former president, Push, Nation of Islam, are all right here in Chicago. And I think it's important for our viewers to understand that the impact of many things that were part and parcel to the civil rights movement played out all around us right here.
So we're headed into Englewood.
And you would never know that the heart of the Englewood community off 63rd was this sort of the second hub of Chicago back in the day, like way back in the day, decades ago. And you just have to see how far it has gone south.
I see a
literally
lot
as we're
of
going.
open fields that are just
It's not uncommon when we get off the main drag around Halsted Street now to boarded up homes that have a big red X, which means they're coming down. They've been, City of Chicago has taken eminent domain, and it's been a crack house or a place of prostitution. And the word Englewood is notoriously, it's one of the most violent neighborhoods in Chicago. In fact, this police district has been, and we were earlier in Garfield Park, and we were talking about Austin. Those are the big three in Chicago where there has been the most violence, the most gang-related shootings, and probably the deepest amount of church resources that just left, that transition. And it's a neighborhood that for years on my heart has been, God, could churches re-engage Englewood, plant in Englewood? And it's just been a war zone, and not even folks that would look to engage in ministry have seen Englewood in that regard. Now, does that mean all is lost? Not at all. Whole Foods just set up a store in Englewood, which is a game changer in many ways.
Yes.
Yeah, There's been favor. Some of the things that the church is able to do in communities like this, you don't have the clear delineation between church and state, and the reality is there is such drama and such need in these neighborhoods that,
They welcome
oh my
an
goodness, Debbie,
interaction.
yes, welcomed and needed and even asked for.
Diane Latiker is an inspiration to us all in the Roseland community. Diane, we're standing outside a memorial. I want you to tell us about the memorial and why did you build it?
In May of 2007, an honor roll student named Blair Holt was shot and killed on a Chicago public bus. A 14-year-old got on the bus and sprayed the bus, and he was killed. And I knew his father, and I was angry. My daughter went to school with Blair, and I was just angry. I was at Home Depot the next day, and I saw these stones, and they looked like small headstones. And I said, wow, I just want to outrage my community. I want them to know young people are dying by violence.
See it,
Yeah.
visualize it.
So I bought 30 stones, because that's all the money I had. I bought them. My husband built me this little pyramid, and I put his name on there and the date he was killed and his age. And it started growing. No intent, not even thinking past that. It just started growing. And
Between the ages of
24 and down.
and down. Okay.
Yes. And
So you quickly went through the 30 stones.
yes. Not only that, we had to continue to buy out of our pocket more stones, like daily. Like it just blew my mind. Like there was no outrage. But the families love the memorial because it keeps the memories of their children alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you mention too, Diane, you did this right out of your home, your house.
Yes.
You literally live across the street from where we're standing right now.
I do.
Yeah.
I live right across
And
the street.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
As a mother, as a neighbor, you did something about this situation. Our viewers, I think, will be encouraged by that.
I was afraid not to do anything.
Yeah.
I was very afraid.
Yeah.
It's easy for me to do that though. But I was too afraid to go in my house and lock the door. I wanted to do something. Not that I knew what I was doing. Let me make that clear. But I just wanted to do what I could.
What does the memorial represent?
It represents the generations we are losing to violence. And that I feel that this country should be outraged. Because this shouldn't happen in America.
You're right. You're right.
They are our children. And I don't think that priority is given to the fact that they die by gun violence in these numbers every year.
And you expect them to go up.
Yes, of course I do.
You just mentioned that sometimes your home is filled with young people. Are these young people that would normally be on the streets if they weren't in your home?
Yes. They come out on the street to be in the street, and that's how the gangs can swoop them up. Because they're running from their houses, they don't want to go home. We open up this court sometimes at 8 o'clock in the morning, and there are still kids, not teenagers, kids
Yeah.
that are here till 8 o'clock at night.
And you say they're not going to die, not on my watch.
Oh, no.
Why do they not want to go home?
Well, I visit a lot of their homes, and I in no way want to down
Right.
the families.
I understand.
Because I live here too. I
Yes.
struggle the same struggles.
not an easy-
No,
they're an
and
easy
most of them do have mothers at home, but they're working. They have 2 and 3 more siblings, and so it's hectic. It's hectic, you know.
What are 2 or 3 core issues that you think would help the kids in this community if they were solved? One would be education, it sounds.
Well, of course, education, but even before education, the community has to care.
Yeah.
When these kids come out into the neighborhoods, there are a lot of people like me. I want to make sure you stress that. But if we're not here, then there's negativity that surrounds them.
Sure.
And they link up with them. Because why? Because the gangs are a family to them. They're a negative family, but they're a family.
Right.
So we've got to be out here strong
Yeah.
and
strong.
catch them up and give them some love and care in a safe place.
Yeah.
And then hit them with education.
Yeah.
and hit
Yeah.
them with
I love
training,
it. I
job
love it.
training,
Yeah, I
and
love it.
skills.
Yeah.
So they can be successful long after
Amen.
I'm gone.
Amen. Thanks for loving on them and loving on this neighborhood, Diane.
Thank
we
you.
love you. Yeah.
Thank you. Love
Bless
y'all
you.
too.
Yeah.
When we come back, we'll talk with Marc Henkel of the Agape Center. Welcome back. Marc Henkel has labored with a humble spirit in the Roseland community for many decades. So Marc, we have been out all day, but we had to come by and see you. And this is proof tonight that the Agape Center is busy day and night. The parking lot's going to fill up pretty soon, right?
That's right.
Well, tell us about the community you serve, its history, and what you're doing now.
Yeah, well, Roseland started in 1848. It was a Dutch community originally. And over the years, there's always been a lot of different racial tension. And in the 60s, there was the white flight when the community changed from all white to all black in a matter of several years. In fact, the former director before me, Milton, was an African American, one of the first to move in, and he would tell the story that when he was in junior high, he would get chased home by the white kids, and then by the time he graduated high school, he was the one chasing the few remaining white children home. So there was a big change, yeah, big change in the neighborhood. And so there's always racial tension. That's one of the things that I love about the Agape Center is that we're advocates for racial justice as well as racial unity. And we talk to hundreds of college students each year about the need to really reconcile.
Unpack a little bit of that for us, Marc, even the genesis of the Agape Center, the connection with Cru, and even the church-based stuff. Help us get what the Agape Center really is about.
Yeah, it started in 1979 when the community changed. The old original building was donated to Cru, formerly Campus Crusade for Christ. And we renovated it and started doing compassionate ministry right in the community. We have an after-school program, we have a teen ministry, and we are really reaching the families here in the Roseland community. And then in 91, we really changed our focus to really not just focus on Roseland and our own community, but really resourcing the church to live out God's heart for the poor and to do evangelism and discipleship. So currently we have over 210 urban church partners that we work together in unity. We are reaching our communities with the gospel.
And I understand there are a lot of single mothers in the community.
So we have an after-school program for the families in the community, but most of them are single moms, and we intentionally have moms Bible studies, moms dinners together, so that some of our staff can pour into some of the moms.
Can you talk a little bit more about that in the broader scope of Pray Roseland, the way that the partnering with churches, not only serving the needs of the community, but praying together, is in many respects a model and exemplary of what we would love for a lot of our other neighborhoods to do the same. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so for since 1979, since we've been here, we haven't seen a whole lot of collaboration with churches working together as much as we have desired to. But probably about 3 years ago, we started to see church leaders come together and we started what we call Pray Roseland, where we come together and we pray regularly together as a body, but then we also take it out on the street, where we stand on the corner, pass out water, offer prayer for people, and then share the love of Jesus and hopefully get them plugged into a church.
And what are the prayer initiatives at that event? What do you pray for?
Whatever the person on the street asks for. So one time we had a person come up and say, wow, I tried to commit suicide last night and I don't know why I'm still alive. So we prayed with her and shared the gospel with her, and she received Christ. Other persons will come by and say, I'm dealing with cancer. Can you pray for me to be healed? Or somebody will pull over for prayer and say, hey, I'm struggling I need God's forgiveness. Can you help me experience God's love and forgiveness? And so it could be anything, really.
Thank you for being with us.
Thanks,
Amen.
Marc. Love
Thank
you,
you.
brother.
More with Doc Feuder after the break. We want to thank you for being with us today on our city tour. And as you can see, we've run out of day.
It's nighttime.
But there are a couple of things that stood out to me. Lots of things stood out to me, and I hope it did to you as well. But what stood out to me is the passion and compassion each person had for the area that they have been called to, and how when God calls us, we know. And we can change our piece of the planet if we are willing and have willing hearts to do so.
Well said, well said. I think many things stood out on this day. It's a day where we feel like our cup is full, our heart is overflowing, even though there's not much light left in this day. We saw and witnessed and interviewed men and women committed to a gospel that is as much about proclamation as it is demonstration. the actual holistic response of the church in
Yes.
communities of need, which is beautiful. Justice concerns that are all around, where they practically are expressing how the church can respond
Yes.
with various programs that are very creative to address areas of need. That was something else that really stood out to me. And I think I want to say too, something that is a takeaway, I think, for all of us, those that are watching. You know, a couple centuries ago, a guy by the name of Hudson Taylor used to say, God's work done God's way will never lack God's supply. Great missionary to China. And I would echo that, but I would also say to our viewers, be a part of that.
Oh,
be a
yes.
part of God's supply, because he can use you. As you've heard these stories, as we've asked you to pray,
Right.
these ministries are so worthy of
They
support.
can't do it alone.
Oh, they can't do it alone. They need us to pray and to find ways to give and to volunteer for those of you that are local, to carry on the legacy of
Yes.
what they've started, and to be shoulders to kind of help lessen the load, to give to meet some of their needs. That's another takeaway I would
And
have.
a lot of the ministries sprung out over a need, over something sad and, just death or crime. But to see the light that is springing up throughout these little communities through people who
Yeah.
have become involved and are actually changing lives, you can be a light as well.
Amen.
So if you're watching, there are ways that you can participate. We're just asking that you will let the Lord lead you.
Yes, ma'am.
Perhaps one of the ministries you have seen or heard about today just spoke to you.
Yeah.
You can get involved, and there's so many ways.
So this was a hopeful day.
Yes.
And these shows are full of hope because God is on the move in Chicago.
And
we celebrate that.
Doc, we thank you all you have done and continue
pleasure.
to do
Yeah.
to change the city of Chicago. So
pleasure.
thank you for being with us today.
You're welcome.
And thanks for watching. Join us again next week. Connect with us at Faith Chicago. Email us, call us with your prayer needs, and check us out on Facebook. We'll see you again this time next week on Faith Chicago.